Hi and welcome to another game analysis. In this game I will show you a game I played as black against the London system. So here we are talking about the system. If you play knight f6, then you want to follow it up with e6 and c5. So knight f6, bishop f4, e6. The main ideas are to pressure this d4 pawn with c5. To keep this pawn on d7 for as long as it's practically useful. Uh, in many lines this bishop will go to e7. What we want to do is play at a later stage knight h5 to attack and maybe win this bishop. And if that happens, then with this bishop on e7 it can't go to g5. If it goes to e5, then we have d6 attacking this bishop here. So after here white played knight f3. I don't think that's the best move. I'm not sure what white thinks he will get by delaying e3. I think e3 or c3, maybe knight c3, maybe even knight d2 are better moves. Here we can just go c5, and here my opponent played d takes c5, which I don't think is the best. First, a quick side note: if white plays c4 here, we can just take it, and one point is white can't take with the knight. Since here we have this check, so here we can actually play e5 and win a piece. So this is so white can't do this, and if queen takes, then we can win a tempo on the queen. Let's say it goes back to d1, then we again have e5 with similar ideas. So knight takes e5 isn't good. Bishop g5 is something what white can try, but then we can just go queen b6. And if white takes out the bishop, just go queen to b2. White can't allow us to take the rook. Well, it won't be a great idea. And after knight e2, we can just take this bishop back. And here e3, just go f5, mobilize your pawns, take space here in the center. And let's say rook b1, we can take out this pawn. And if something like rook c1, we can just develop, and if white kicks us out, we can always go back here. So there are a few circuits we can use to escape. In the game, white took d takes c5, and here you have to pay attention that white has some ideas of putting a piece on d6. So the solution is obvious: immediately take out this pawn. If here bishop d6, you just take it, and after queen takes, queen e7. You see here this endgame, white wins a lot of games. I'm not sure why, since black is fine. So here knight c3, most white players played. Then you can play d5, and after e3, I think what you should do, and what many players didn't play, is a6 here to stop any piece from jumping to b5. So let's continue the line for a bit more. So I will give some more samples. I will give a sample line. Knight e7. a4 is what white can try to push this pawn further. Then you can just play b6 with the point that after a5 you can play b5. You might say, well, this bishop is bad, but our pawns are still mobile. We can push them and improve this bishop later. Maybe right now it doesn't look so good, but well, you can make it stronger later. You can make it happier at the later stage in the game. So knight a2 might be an idea to jump into a position. Just bishop b7, and after knight b4, for example, if white plays h4, you can just ignore it. Here, white doesn't really have any attack, so there is no rook takes h5 ideas. That's just not good. You can just take out the pawn and win it. And after something like c3, knight e4 with the points that white shouldn't really take, because he will leave some weaknesses here on the light squares on the queen side. For example, knight c5, we have threats of knight d3, knight b3, e5. For example, this. And here already this pawn on a5 will fall, so obviously not such a great line for white. So let's get back to the game. White played e3 here. I played castles, but I quite like the engine suggestion here, which is to actually go queen to b6. The point being that we are controlling this d6 square with the bishop and the queen, so there's no invasion possible. Also, we are pressuring, we are attacking the square b2 and putting pressure here on f2 and e3 with this queen and bishop battery. Usually white will go b3, queen c1 or knight e2. Well, all these moves are also possible. You can check them out for yourself. Let's check out b3 here. In this case, now it's a good moment to play d5. And I will give some sample lines. So bishop d3, we can just develop knight c6. And after castles, finally go after this f4 bishop, as we often tend to do. So when it goes to g5, we can often play h6, g5, especially now, now that the white pieces aren't that active yet and we are not castle short. So h6, bishop h4, g5. Excuse me. And in this case, let's say white goes to g3 with the bishop, you can take it out, and after g4, let's say knight h4 and h5, you have just got a very pleasant position. Let's say white gets a little tricky and finds the best move, knight to d2, counter-attacking your knight here. And I don't think you want to play g takes h4, queen takes h4. Maybe you think that the g file will be useful, but I don't think it will bring black that much, since all our pieces here are on the queen side. And it will be really slow to organize an attack against that king. So just back to f6, I think. And after bishop g3, you can play very aggressively with h5, threatening to play h4, kind of trapping this bishop. So white probably should play h4, in which case you can go knight to g4. Notice that there is a ton of pressure here on e3. Also this pawn might become weak in the future. And let's say white captures here. Then you can play e5. We are playing very aggressively at the flank and in the center. Notice that many of black's pieces are still on the back rank, and we are just way more active. These pieces are very nice. This knight, well, looks like it's far away, but I guess it's only a couple of jumps away from joining the action. This rook is on the starting square, but when we can push the pawn, it will be very nicely placed, especially if this file opens. So let's say white wants to annoy us and threaten to win this pawn. It's okay, we can just ignore it here. Now this is a double attack. If bishop h2, we win the knight. And if white if white here takes out this pawn, we can win the bishop. And if white here attacks our bishop, we can just ignore it and even go for a mating attack. So one example, if white takes here, that's already losing. We can go queen g5, and you will see here mate in 8. So white can give a couple of checks to delay the mate for a few moves, but our threat is to go rook to h2. So these pieces are all joining in the attack to threaten checkmate. So white has to go f4, and after rook h2, king g1, the queen sneaks in. Rook h1 is the threat, which is why white has to give up the queen, but this doesn't help him. Here you can just give mate on h2. Well, obviously you won't get that in probably, maybe you will never get it, maybe you will get it sometime, but it's I think nice to know. And I think if you can play like this against the London, in my book, that's already a win. I don't think many London players will enjoy playing this position. So let's go back. Let's see where we were. Oh yeah. So queen b6, queen b6 here is definitely the move I recommend. So let's go back to the game. I played castles. My opponent played bishop to d3. And now this wasn't the best. I should have just kept on developing. I played bishop to e7 here, just to continue with this plan of getting this bishop. It's not a bad plan, but here just developing was better, I think. So now I jump to h5. My opponent played bishop to e5. And here I played knight c6. The opponent jumped away. Here I tried to trade a lot of pieces. I think that was really not the best way to do it. Well, it was okay to trade some pieces, but I should have been more careful which pieces to actually trade. So here g6 was preferred by the engine to protect his knight. I took it. So here instead of queen h5, white had the opportunity to steal a pawn away, and after bishop takes we can counterpin the queen, and we get some massive position like this, but that wasn't necessary here. Just g6 would have been fine, and we could have continued trading pieces if we wanted to later. Here my opponent didn't notice it, and here also I took out the bishop on c3, which wasn't so good since I allowed this knight to develop immediately after recapturing. Also b takes c3 might be a little bit interesting for my opponent. So here now the game is still that equal, and it's time to do something with this pawn. So d5, and after d4 I played b6 to get out this bishop. White jumped with the knight with some ideas of a4, an idea which to be honest which I missed. And after bishop a6, white is just in time to come back with the queen to support this knight. And the annoying thing is, after the pawn recaptures, there's an obvious weakness here on c6. And white might use it to pressure our position. So I made a hole for my king here, and after some more trades here, I should have just dropped my queen back and traded pieces when it was more favorable to me. Here, actually, this was a mistake by me. This allowed white to come back into the game. Better was to go rook e8, with the point being that after e5 I can make my own rook more active. And even though this looks more pleasant for white, it should still be holdable, although, well, it's not the most pleasant position to play, I guess. So that wasn't it. That this trade wasn't the best. This rook trade and the queen trade. Fortunately, my opponent didn't. So a5 was also a mistake. Fortunately, my opponent didn't go for the best idea, rook c6, which is really annoying, since it kind of paralyzes my pieces. This rook needs to babysit this pawn all the time. This queen is, this king is also a bit restricted from coming out. So that wasn't the way to go. Instead, white made the mistake, rook to a1. Here I should have immediately taken the c file. Instead, I brought the king. And here white says, well, your rook is pinned, so you can't take. It's true, we can't take, but we can certainly push this a pawn further up the board. And after some moves, this rook, well, is out of squares, and this position is just horrible for white. So after king e5, I even missed mate in 2. So there is an idea here, g5, with the point that the king can't escape. And on the next move, f6 is checkmate. I guess I was too busy with stuff on the queen side that I just missed this. Played f6. The king can escape. Here there are maybe some ideas for white to infiltrate to g6, but it's just too slow. Probably that's why he brought his pawns. Here also looks like this e5 move wasn't the best. Engine suggests rook a3. Here I finally traded this a pawn for the d pawn here. And after some more moves, so Engine wants to play g6 to be able to take this pawn with check. And in the end, I guess I'm a pawn up with my king closer to his weakness. In the game, I want to attack this pawn, so that after rook takes g7 I could take back here with check. And after some moves, white allowed my d pawn to run. Here this was, I think, the last chance he had to play rook c6 and stop my d pawn here. He missed that. He let me queen, and here, well, this is just winning for me. And in this position, white resigned. So let's also see the engine analysis, and you will see that here in the opening, I managed to get an equal position, and here I was better. Made a mistake here. with exchanging on b5 and letting white clamp, letting white create a clamp on my position. Made some more mistakes. Well, both of us made some more mistakes. Here I missed the mate ID with which is quite cool actually, with g5. Take away the last remaining square of the king, and this is checkmate. But it's okay. I mean, these London games often take long, and especially if it's just a 10-minute game, there will be some mistakes, inaccuracies or blunders. But I was really happy with how the opening turned out. And obviously it's always nice to be able, in the end, to be able to win against the London system. So that was it for today's video. What I also want you to remember here is after bishop takes c5, e3, to really remember the idea of queen to b6, which I didn't play. So this is really nice, and you have seen some of the variations. So that's definitely, I think, the way to go here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, if you liked it, please like, subscribe or leave a comment, and I will see you maybe next time.